Good morning, my beauties. How are you doing out there in the world, wherever you are today? Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I have with me the wonderful Claire O'Connor. Claire, hi. Thank you for being with us
Thank,
today on this
thank you.
grey, murky, British, rubbish day by the looks of it outside of my window. I don't know about
Yeah,
you.
yeah, we're better off being indoors. Yeah,
I think
100%.
so, yeah. I think I'll stick to doing this. Claire
Yeah.
is an accountability coach who has got her own company, which is called the 5% Coaching. So, Claire, as always, I'm just going to hand it straight over to you. You tell us all about you and what it is that you do.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Bex. Thank you so much for having me on. It's really nice to be here. So yes, as you said, exactly that. I am an accountability coach, which I will explain what that means. I basically trained as a life coach in 2016, so about kind of coming up for 8, 9 years ago now, and set up my company then. And with accountability coaching, basically, I work mainly with small business owners, but it does vary. Like over the years, I've worked with artists, I've worked with a weightlifter, I've worked with a priest, like really varied people, but mainly business owners, entrepreneurs, that kind of thing.
I love
And
it. So diverse.
yeah, you never know who you're going to get as well, which is fantastic. And you never know what's going to come up with working with people. But the main kind of program, like I suppose like my flagship, the main way I work with people, although it does tend to be flexible, but mainly I work with people in 6 month kind of stints. So we start together with those 6 months, and basically clients have a check-in at the end of each week to find out what they've done. Then we set a plan for the next week where they choose 3 to 5 tasks that they're going to work on. And then we're very mindful with that of 3 to 5 tasks that are going to move them forward the most in their business, rather than like, oh, I'm going to do some emails and go to the gym. It's like, no. What business task are going to move you forward the most? And then we kind of go over any obstacles. Like, I'll give them coaching questions, coaching tips, exercises, anything like that to help move through the obstacles. Yeah, so that's mainly it, really. Yeah, feel free to let me know any questions you have about it.
Well, I absolutely love that. So, I mean, Claire and I have had a chat already because we just can't help ourselves. We've both got Anthony and we've been having a good old natter.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, accountability is everything. And it doesn't matter, who you are or what you do, as you said, like it's not just businesses that you deal with, it's people and clergy and all sorts of stuff. So, like accountability is so, so important to who we are and what we're trying to achieve. I mean, what would be your sort of your best advice for someone that's got that kind of like that severe stuck in a rut kind of mode at the moment? Because I think a lot, especially through this drudgy winter that we've had, I think a lot of people have got that I'm really I'm stuck right now kind of
yeah,
vibe.
yeah. That's a really good question. Yeah, and it does vary. Like I'll always say to people, accountability doesn't work for every single person. There are always going to be people that just don't need it. But I always say that the majority of people benefit from accountability, whether that is literally just having someone at the end of the week or at the end of the month that you say, I did this and I didn't know if I was going to do it or not. And it was really difficult, but I just want to tell you that I've done it. Especially because as humans, we like to keep face. We don't want to lose face. If we've said we're going to do something, we generally like to then do it, just as humans. So for someone who's stuck in a rut, I would say two things that come to mind first of all. The first one is start really small. Like honestly, when things can feel so overwhelming, so start with whatever feels right for you. So for example, sometimes like if someone's in a massive depression, for example, having a shower can be a huge win. So it's all relative to where you are versus maybe if you're doing a bit better than that, but you just don't know where to start. Pick something, make it small enough. If it feels overwhelming, make it smaller still, so you think, I can do that. I know how to get started. I can do that within 10 minutes. The smaller the better. So quite often with clients, especially if they're doing anything around like writing, so any like dissertation or any big blog post, anything like that they're getting stuck on with writing, sometimes I'll have them like just open up a Word document, like if that's where they're getting stuck, like literally open up your laptop and give yourself that pat on the back moment. Open up a Word document, write the title, try and write one sentence, because it's quite often it's the getting started that's the hard part, you know. And once you've got that first sentence, then you're there going, okay, I can do this, you know. I'm writing the blog post, as opposed to freaking out about, you know, and thinking about the blog post, if I can say it. And the other thing I'd say that I do with all my clients, and it's really important, is the self-kindness piece, basically. Like, it's so overlooked, but being really kind and gentle on yourself, because if you are stuck in a rut, you're probably going to be feeling a bit crappy. You know, you're dealing with all these thoughts, and that's completely normal. So a lot of the work I do with my clients actually is it is about accountability, but it's also about saying, I hear all the things that you didn't get done, you know, like I see this list that you didn't get done. I know you want to tell me about that, but look at what you did do, you know, because that's the important stuff, and that's the stuff that's going to move you forward. So it's that shift. Quite often a big part of my work is the shift from, like, I know there are things that you haven't done because our to-do lists are never ending, but let's not forget about this part that you did, you know. So celebrating those wins each day and having the kindness, like talking to yourself like a friend. So on those days which are really tough, and you go, oh, you know, all I did was like have a shower and put the washing on, and, you know, that's all I did. Okay, if that's, you know, if that was your capability on that day, that's a really good thing. And then you try and build it up tomorrow with something else, you know?
Which is wonderful. I mean, I love the fact that we're seeing like this huge growth in holistic businesses, or what at least I would call holistic business. And by that, I don't mean people like me that do energy healing. I mean these people that are kind of like you, that are adopting this lovely kind of self-love, self-kindness, compassionate, mindful approach to something like business. Because, I mean, in this very, very busy, very, very, very chaotic world, no matter what we're doing, whether it's business related or not business related, at the very least, all we need is kindness, right? You know, you're right, speaking to yourself as if you were your friend, because you would never sit there and put your friend down for not managing everything in a day or an hour or whatever, but you do to yourself. And the way we talk to ourselves is so important. It really is. And we talk a lot here about positive self-talk and compassionate self-talk and just being damn kind to yourself. And we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, and we can say it until we're blue in the face. We can believe it. But I think putting that sometimes into action for yourself is a very difficult task. It is. It's hard to say to yourself, it's okay. You did well.
Yeah. I think it's one of our biggest challenges, if I'm honest. Like, I really think as humans, and especially as women as well, I think one of our biggest challenges is looking at that shift in the way we talk to ourselves and learning that it's okay to treat ourselves with love. Like, I'll say to clients things like, you know, because even sometimes I'll hear from people like, but if I love myself, you know, will that make me arrogant? You know, and it's like, well, the question I always give is, do you love your kids? Or, you know, if you don't have kids, like a niece or nephew or someone in your life that you're really close to, do you love them? Yes, 100%. Does that love make them arrogant? Of course it doesn't. You know, it's necessary, right? It's, and we're not even expected, but, you know, it's like that love is essential for those children to thrive. So I try and look at it the same way. And it is a journey we're all going to be on. It's a journey I'm on too. But loving ourselves doesn't make us arrogant. It's what we need, really, to help us get through the day. And I often find, like, I had an example this week, actually, or last week, where I was absolutely shattered. I'd been out in the morning. I was really shattered in the afternoon. And I thought, what do I feel like doing, honestly? You know? And the answer was nothing. Absolutely. I didn't feel like doing anything. I had a huge, long task list. You know, I had tons of things to do. But my body was saying, I don't want to do anything. So I sat on the couch and I did nothing, which immediately your brain is going, you know, what a waste of time. Like, you've got so much you could be doing. You're not being productive, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up having a bit of a nap. And it was really nice. And I think I needed it, you know. And so again, the brain kicks in with, I can't believe you napped. You know, like, you've got so much you should be doing. But the next day, and because I'm working on this, I was like kind to myself throughout. But the next day, I was so much more productive because I'd had that rest, you know. So sometimes we forget, like, you know,
completely.
we charge our phones every night, but we don't give ourselves the same courtesy.
Do
You
it
know?
to ourselves. Yeah, completely and
Yeah.
utterly. And you did
Yeah.
exactly the right thing as well, not only to enjoy that nap, but like to
Mm.
be kind to yourself afterwards, because your brain, oh, those brains of ours, they're so loud. They're so loud, and they're telling us constantly that we're doing everything wrong.
Yeah,
And
always.
you know,
Yeah.
you're doing that right, and you didn't do enough, and it wasn't big enough, it wasn't good enough,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to tell yourself, actually, what I'm doing now, this nothing is equally as productive
Yeah.
for me right now, because
Yeah.
rest is equally as productive as
Yeah.
being productive. And in
Yeah.
a
And
world
obviously,
where we're sort of taught to go, 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 at
yeah.
least for 8 hours a day, right? Like at least 8 hours. Put
Yeah,
the
at least.
in,
Yeah.
and then you can have your 8 hours of rest when that time comes in
Yeah.
the night. But we don't really live in that world anymore. We don't really live in that time frame. We don't really live
Hmm.
with the same responsibilities in the same way anymore. The world is a very different place now, and what we're facing on a daily is very different now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
100%.
what we need to give ourselves to survive through that, to get through that safely, mentally, physically, and emotionally, is very different. And my hat goes off to you. Well done. I hope you enjoyed that nap.
I absolutely did. Yeah, it was a good nap. Yeah. And it's so funny because I mean, some naps are terrible and, you wake up and it was a bad idea and you wake up groggy
Yeah,
and you don't know what year it is or what century it is. I get that. Sometimes you're like, that was not a good nap. And some people just aren't nappers. So obviously that was just an example. But I know people where they'll say like, I feel so bad. I had a nap and I feel so bad.
yeah,
And you're like, but why? Like sleep is essential. Sleep is a good thing. Obviously there's extremes, right? So if you're going to the point where you're sleeping all the time, of course that's not a good thing. It probably needs to be looked at. But yeah, in this busy world that we live in, and it is go go go, I believe that we have to start, like we were talking about before, setting those boundaries and deciding what's right for us and what works for us, and saying, you know what, it is really busy, but right now I need a nap, or I need 5 minutes to myself, or I need to say no to this engagement or something. It is, and it is a bit of a tightrope. It is a learning curve as well. I don't think we're going to get it overnight. I'm still learning this stuff, but it is that balance of going, it's not saying no to every social engagement, for example, but it is saying if you've had 5 nights out on the trot and you are shattered and exhausted and, feeling really miserable, then what can you cancel out? What can you reschedule? It doesn't mean letting someone down last minute necessarily, but it just means looking at, do I need to do all the things this on my list this weekend? And then being honest with it as well. Honesty is a big part of it, right? Self-awareness.
definitely.
Do I need to do those things?
Also honest to the world as well, to the people around you, and so on. We experienced something similar last year, I think it was, when we were looking at our own boundaries within our house, and there was something we had organised. We'd set it up. We were hosting it. It was very small. We wanted, with all of our love and heart, we wanted to continue to have this thing going on, but we really couldn't. When you just can't, and everything about you is saying, like, I am exhausted. I am actually really wound up, tired, frustrated, angry, because I'm so knackered. I don't feel like I've got time to prepare the house, myself, shower, dress, whatever it is, makeup and so on for this, even though all I want to do is have these people round and host this thing, and I can't wait for it, but oh my God, I just can't. And we had to sort of really sit down as two grown-ups, and kind of go, so do we cancel? Or do we do the thing that we want to do, but feel like we actually really, really can't do it? I'll tell you what, it took forever to work out that the right answer is, even though you're the host, even though it was your plan, even though you made the booking, the suggestion, everything, it's sometimes got to be okay to say to people, I'm so sorry, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people really appreciate that honesty. Yeah. Yeah. Well done, you guys. So did you end up posting it in the end, or did you decide to like reschedule or
No,
cancel?
we didn't. No, we cancelled. We
Yeah.
postponed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
yeah, it was very
yeah,
much, we really want to do this. So, we'll
yeah,
just put it off for a bit. But right now,
yeah,
we're not physically capable,
yeah,
probably not mentally capable either. And it is
yeah,
difficult to, as you said, to like cancel on people or to say no. You don't ever want to be the person that's always putting stuff off or always cancelling or letting people down.
yeah,
You don't want to be the person that then doesn't get invited to things because you're that person that keeps letting them
yeah,
down. But
yeah,
there has to be a level of understanding between humans when, as you said, like if you've had a busy week and
mm,
you've been at it, burning the candle at both ends, and you just can't do day 6,
yeah,
as a human being, you should be able to say, I'm so sorry. I can't, I don't think I can do this.
yeah, yeah.
And it
And
is
I think
difficult getting that balance, isn't it?
yes, yeah, it is a balance for sure. And also sometimes it's like testing things out and realizing that didn't work, or that did work, or that really worked for me. And quite often we'll be given these, I call them like life lessons, where something will crop up and we maybe make, the choice that didn't work out for the best.
Yeah.
And then the situation comes up again, and we have the choice again whether we're going to do it or not, whether we learn from it. But like you were saying with you and the hosting, it sounds like you listened to what was right for you guys at that time and what your bodies needed. And often as well, I'll say like people I'm working with or clients or when I'm running a workshop, it's like generally our bodies give us a sign. I think there's something in it, like that's why they always say a gut instinct, like your heart will tell you or your gut will tell you. Quite often our brains do a lot of the thinking, but they need to switch off because our gut is often the thing that knows. So our body will say to us, you need a rest. Our body gives us those tips. Or quite often in this busy world, sometimes you'll find yourself getting ill when it's your body saying, I'm going to force this rest then. If you don't do it, then I'm going to enforce it. So, yeah, and I think, and it is really hard to do, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's something, like I said, that you can switch on instantly. But it's just something to think about if it interests you, and it's something to be mindful of,
Yeah, be
and
mindful
mindful
of
of
it,
that.
and
Yeah,
then you can progress from there, because I don't think any of us will ever be done working on this or any of it, but I don't think there's an end game here. It's just a
no,
matter as each situation arises, as each day comes up, as each moment hits you, just be mindful of what you need. And I love what you're saying about gut instinct, because our brains are amazing things, like they're so
yep,
wonderful, but
yep,
they're also so detrimental to us in our thinking, in our patterns, that we need to be listening to our heart. We need to be listening to what our gut is telling us, what our instincts, our intuition, all of those very natural things,
yep,
because they will never steer us wrong, even if it feels off in the moment, like the car that won't start and you're really forcing it to start to get you to the thing that you're really late for. And actually the whole, your gut, your instinct, your intuition, the universe, everything's trying to stop you from moving
yep,
at that moment. And you're the one still trying to ram the key in and make it happen.
yep,
It's
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
kind of moment, isn't it? Where you've got to just stop and listen and kind of go, okay, hold on. Something is telling me I need a rest. I need
yeah,
to stop. I need to put a boundary in place. And we have this connotation that we believe that no is a really bad word. And it's not. I think anybody that is on any form of healing or self-improvement journey, no matter what stage you are at, how long you've been at it or how long you haven't been at it, I think all of those people, they're accepting of the word no as much as they're happy to give it out. They don't mind you saying, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now for you. I'm so sorry, I'm not available this week.
yeah,
They don't mind that. And there's nothing
yeah,
wrong with saying that. I mean, we had an amazing conversation a minute ago, didn't we? About how sort of the rest of the world is kind of moving forward. You get these emails with this auto response of, I'm out of the office now. I only work flexible hours of, Monday and Friday. I only do 2 hours on each day. And you don't sit there and kind of cuss them out, do you? You just kind of go, oh, well, then I'll talk to you on Monday or Friday.
yeah. Yeah,
You
exactly.
do
We
it
figure it out. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I feel like the world is a really excuse me, I've got an annoying cough coming. It is a really busy place, and I think like with technology the way it is, I'm not anti-technology at all. I think the internet has brought so many wonderful, amazing things. Don't get me wrong, like I really do. But I think along with that, because there are pros and cons to everything, along with that, The negative is that things have sped up to a pace that we just can't cope with, like as humans. You know, it's insane to think that we can have, you know, like 1,000 friends on Facebook, for example, that we can keep in touch with all of them and keep on track with all their lives. You know, we can't. We just weren't built for that number of people. You know, like emails that I've got friends that have got like 20,000 emails in their inbox. You know, like we cannot cope with it. So I think I know it. It gives me heart palpitations because I'm an email inbox zero kind of girl. So, well, that's my aim at least. But like, yeah, I think because of knowing all of that, we as humans, I think our next big lesson, our next big learning, I think, is going to be to learn how to set boundaries. And like you said, what to say no on, and learn that it's okay to say no for certain things. And again, testing things out, seeing what works. But yeah, we cannot respond to everything 24/7. So even with things like email, for example, so we have to be setting those boundaries. And I was saying to you how my learning at the moment is, you know, if I see an email at like Sunday at 8 p.m, my brain is then thinking about it, and I'm like, so why did I check? Because I'm not going to get back to that person until Monday morning. There was no need for me to check that email because now it's in my head, it's, you know, probably weighing me down, and I didn't need that at all. So my next learning will be around those boundaries of, if I'm not going to respond to emails on a Sunday, which I'm not, why am I checking them on a Sunday? You know, like you know, again, it's that balance, right? Because sometimes you need to be prepared for what's coming in on the Monday, for example, and sometimes you just need to check, you know, to know what's happening, that kind of thing. But I think it's about playing around and learning what works for you, right? So for some people, having a weekend jam-packed works really well. For other people, it doesn't, and they need to put rest and breaks into that weekend. So yeah, listening to the body, I'm a big one for that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I would assume that with the work that you do, part of that is, if you need to schedule that in, schedule that in. So Claire, if you can do me a favour, can you please explain to everybody what the 5% is in the 5% coaching? Because I know it's got an amazing explanation to it.
Yes, so the 5% coaching came about because basically when I started my life coach training in 2015, like way back, basically the reason for that was that I was working in a job that I absolutely hated, like terrible, terrible place to work, like bad management. It was like the revolving door where people would, you know, leaving so frequently, they'd join and they'd leave straight away because it was just a very toxic work environment. And I was working there for a few years, and as you'd expect in a place like that, like it was affecting me mentally and physically. So I was just really, hating it, hating my life, just feeling so yuck. And you might be able to relate, and probably some of your listeners can relate. And it got to the point where, you know, like I was not even just feeling sick about going to work on the Sunday evening, ready for Monday. I was feeling sick on the Saturday because I knew that the Sunday coming meant that I had to go back to work on the Monday. It was that kind of environment, just horrible. And I had that decision, like a lot of us do. I got to that point where I was like, I cannot do this anymore. You know, this cannot be my life. This is insane. So I ended up, after a lot of thinking and just, you know, going back and forth, I ended up leaving that job with nothing to go to, which I realise is a very lucky position to be in. I totally get that. And I basically took the summer off. And I was living in Vancouver at the time, so the summers there are generally more consistent. So I took the summer off, went to the beach, and essentially I decided to remove everything from my life that summer and then put in the things that were working really well for me and the things that I loved and that, you know, set me alight, as it were. So the activities I love to do, the people that I love the most, you know, the people that just feel like a hug when you're with them, like I got back into swimming, which I hadn't done for years, all that kind of stuff. And I was also seeing having massages at that time as well as part of my self-care. And I was seeing my massage therapist, who was we always have really great conversations. And I was telling her about the changes that I'd made to my life. And she was like, oh my goodness, this sounds amazing. And she said, do you know what's interesting is that most people come in and they're, you know, on the massage table and they're very relaxed. And she said at that point, most of them share about their goals and their dreams, you know, all the things they want to do with their life. They're relaxed, their brain goes to that place of, I'd love to do this. And she said, the majority of the time, almost immediately, they come in with all the reasons why they can't do those things. They immediately go to the reasons why they can't, or excuses, you know. And she said the thing is, the reasons are always the same, you know, there's never anything different. She said, it's, I have a mortgage, I have a partner, I have kids, I have a cat, you know, whatever it is, it's always the same. And she said the majority of people do that. And she was like, it's quite depressing to hear in a way. And she said, a few people like yourself come in, and she said, I love that you're talking about the changes that you're making to your life. Because most people, and she said 95% of people come in, talk about their goals and dreams, then talk about why they can't do them. She said about 5% of people come in, talk about their goals and dreams and how they're working towards them. And so that's where it came about, really. And it's like the 5% is tongue in cheek, you know, like it doesn't literally mean 5% of people, of course. But it's just that idea that, like, there's a small group of people who, realise that they want to change their life in some way, but then are taking steps towards it as well, you know, like actually taking action on it. And it can be really small, you know, but it's just people who, for example, like yourself, who's saying, I really want to start a podcast, so they do it. You know, like, oh, I've always wanted to do this, and they take steps towards it. So that was the idea of the 5%. It was those people who were like, who wanted to make a change to their life, but who were willing to take action on it as well, rather than just talking about it.
Oh, which I think that's not only a really cool business name, that works so well. That's a really good business name. But I love the explanation behind that, because that switch that happens to people, as you said, that kind of that moment where enough is enough.
Yeah.
So I don't like to call it rock bottom. I feel that that has, you know, like it's quite negative, because it's not always rock bottom. It's not always the lowest of the low moments. But that switch where we change something or everything, it doesn't matter how big or how small it is, and we just move ourselves from the grind, from the pattern, from what we just keep repeating over and over that is making us so unhappy. And what I'll notice with a lot of the listeners, a lot of the guests I have on, it's all been like that for them as well. So they're 5%ers. They are the people that were working in a job that was making them physically unwell. They were working in a job that was mentally messing with them and they couldn't cope anymore. They were working in a job that made them so unhappy because of the thing that they were doing physically was it just went against everything that they believed in. And they do it, and they do it, and they do it for years on end and years on end, because we're kind of trained to do so, right? We're just trained to stay on that treadmill. Retirement, that's what you're looking for, you're trying to get to retirement so that you can stop doing this.
That's the goal, right?
More, right? I love your summer, like blow everything off. I'm going to remove everything from my calendar for the summer and only put in stuff I love. I love that.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously I would have to say that was pre-kids as well, but I actually ended up writing a blog post afterwards where I was like, even with kids, like, yes, it might not be practical to take the whole summer off, and I totally get that. But I bet there are things that, even with your listeners, I would bet everyone in their life, there are things they can shave off. And there, as we're talking about saying no as well, you know, to like, there are changes that you can make. The issue isn't so much like that we can't make them. The issue is around, it might feel scary. Change is scary. I would be doing something different. You might have pressure from other people in your lives. The people, I feel like I don't have lost you again. Hopefully I haven't lost you. But like even the people around us can make a big difference. And I totally agree with what you were saying about rock bottom, because that was essentially it. I had hit rock bottom. And I heard this thing recently where it said that basically when things are like meh, you know, like okay-ish or not great, as humans we don't tend to change them. It's only when things get really bad that we make changes. And so it's sometimes that's almost a problem, where it's like, if you're in a job where it's like, oh, I don't love it, but it's, you know, it's fine, like I'll just do it until I retire, it's fine, then we tend to stay in it. But it's when we have those jobs, for example, or those relationships or those situations where we go, this is hellish, I cannot do this for the rest of my life, I am in hell. That's when we make those changes that actually lead us to better things, if that makes sense. So I think even when you talk, like when you listen to kind of, you know, super successful people, they will often say, I went through a really horrific experience, but then I realised afterwards that I had to go through that horrific experience, and it gave me the strength or the oomph or whatever you want to call it to get to where I am now. You know, it's almost like that. I call it like a, you know, did you have to do gym at school where you had the springboard and you have to like run and bounce off it? So I feel like it's like that springboard where you go down and you really hit rock bottom, like you said,
Yeah,
and
and
it propels you up.
yeah,
Whereas if you just have that, things are kind of meh, that's when it's harder in a way because you haven't got that extreme push to make a change. Yeah.
I completely agree. And honestly, I have so many conversations that are so similar. And, you know, I love your story because it's almost like the epitome of exactly what we are talking about here. So you hit your rock bottom, you got your oomph, you got your springboard, and you sprung yourself up. But instead of just going, I'm going to go do this now, you kind of went, I am going to listen to my body, my intuition, my heart, my soul, whatever you want to call it, my instinct, my gut reactions to absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And instead of just leaping from one problem to another, I'm going to stop. And you took this huge pause and then did this amazing thing of just like wiping everything out and then only adding in the good stuff. Love
Yeah.
as well. And then from that, you meet this person that is part of your self-care who has actually given you, drip-fed you, the perfect little seed that actually inspired your business further down the road. You know, it's like the epitome of following your heart or listening to your gut instinct or trusting your intuition, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
like we can force against it as much as we want. And we do all the damn time. We see a red flag, we ignore it. We go to a job we hate, we stay in the meh phase, and we'll stay there for ages until we don't anymore. And so and we push against this all the damn time. But the truth is your intuition, whatever you want to call it, your angels that are watching over you, your guardian angels, or the universe is looking out for you, whatever it is that you feel or believe in, no matter what, it's almost like your path knows when you're on the wrong path, right?
Yeah, I fully,
We're not
totally.
talking about destiny. We're just talking about where you belong. If you're in the wrong place, it still tries to pull you to where you're supposed to go.
Yeah, you still get those nudges. Yeah. And then they get louder and louder, and you go, shush, 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 I'm fine. But the nudges are there more and more. Yeah. And I think what you said just then was really interesting as well, when you said that I basically hit pause. And I think that's really important. I think I'd never realised this actually, but hearing you say it, that was a massive part of it, was that pause before I went into coaching. You're right. So I didn't just jump from that horrible job straight to being a coach, because that probably would have impacted my coaching. But having that pause, and so for anyone listening, you might absolutely, fair enough, be thinking, well, I can't just do that. Do you know what I mean? I can't take a summer off and I can't hit pause. But I bet there are certain things you could start saying no to. There are certain ways you could hit pause. And it doesn't have to be a huge life shift. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a huge change. It might just be something like, my kids have gone down from doing 6 clubs to doing 3 clubs. Or, for example, or my children hate these 2 clubs. I'm going to just think about what the benefits are for putting them in it. That's an example. I'm not saying that everyone has to do less, clubs with their kids. Or something like Sunday mornings.
I've got friends that are doing that right now. They've realised that it's too much. It's too much for their child. It's too much for them. It's too time consuming. It's too much travel. It takes too much out of everything. Everyone's pissed off. Everyone's knackered. Everyone's fed up. And they can't work out what for. So they kind of said, what if we reduce it down from 5 clubs a week? And you could go 5 clubs a week? Holy crap.
I know. How are we even doing this? Yeah.
How are you coping with this? Is the magnitude of the pressure of doing this. That's amazing. Well for you, but 5 can come down a little bit, especially if children are happy with it too. If children is not an overachieving, very competitive person that kind of goes, actually, I don't really want to be doing 5 things each week. I'm kind of tired. I want to play. I want to sit and do nothing and watch a film in my jammies. You look and that's self-care. That's a child's version of self-care. Have at it, it's it's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. And it's about finding what works for your family, of
Yeah.
course. Like, I totally get that. And that's not saying that, I'm not saying, of course, it's wrong to do 6 clubs or have your children in all these clubs. But I think, again, we have
There's
that.
anyone that can, it's not you.
Yeah, I know. Like, as an adult, I know I couldn't do 6 clubs a week. So I'm always like, how do your kids do 6 clubs a week? But yeah, like, but it's just that idea of, I think the thing is, I love that you're hearing that people are doing that, because I think it's just starting to ask those questions, of like, what are we doing this for, and who are we
Yeah.
doing this for? Because
It
if we're
doesn't make
doing it for us, yeah, if we're doing it for us and our family, fantastic. But if we're doing it for everyone else, or because we think we should, or because so and so across the road is doing it, then it gives us a chance just to reflect on that and think,
yeah.
am I doing this for the right reasons? Because it's
Uh,
okay to say no, like we've said already.
the should is the worst one for me.
Yeah.
I should be doing this. I was told that I should
Yeah.
have achieved this, or I should by this age have so and so. That one slays me. I've always hated should, and I hate the word can't as well. Like if someone says
Okay.
you can't, the first thing I think, yeah, watch me.
Yeah. That's the worst thing you can say to people like us.
You know,
Watch me as I do it. Yeah.
the should puts you into a completely locked pattern of basically you're stuck people pleasing, even if you don't realize that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Even if you're not
Yeah.
necessarily doing it for one person, you are still people pleasing because you are trying to please a version or the expectation of a version of yourself instead of just being you and what your version is. What do you look like? What do you want? That's why people move abroad. People tell them they're nuts and they kind of
Yeah.
go, actually, again, I've hit rock bottom. I don't care what you think. I'm going to enjoy myself. And they bloody well do. And then when they come back, people are like, oh, you're so brave. And you're like, well, you just told me I was nuts.
Yeah. I know, it's so funny. Is it, what is that? I think there's that quote where it's like first they laugh at you, and I can't remember what the middle one is. Then they ignore you, and then as you get successful, then they kind of ask you how you did it or something. Like it changes, doesn't it? Yeah, because I had similar thing. Because I lived in Canada for 10 years, same as you living abroad. And when I moved, people are like, for me, I actually felt like I got a lot of what felt like guilt tripping almost of like, how can you leave your family? Like, obviously not children, but this is pre-kids, but how can you leave your family? You're not going to be there for your siblings and you're not going to see your nieces and nephews. How can you do this? And then when I came back, people were like, but you're mad for coming back. Why would you come back? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We get it all the time. We get it all the time. Why are you back? And you're like, well, there are reasons behind it. There is a story behind it. But yeah, I mean, generally, I actually do get the feeling of like, why have you come back to the UK? You're bloody miserable. Why are you here? I do get it. Yeah, I do agree with you. People that are kind of stuck in that mess and they can't spring forward and they can't see further than, that and what they're doing. Fine. If it works for you, that's amazing. But there are people, 5%, let's say, no, not let's say, I think that although it's tongue-in-cheek and she was only guessing and it's not a scientific fact, I actually reckon you're probably not far wrong. If you were to look at the question, it probably isn't far wrong in the slightest. And to get to that 5%, people say it's brave, and I'm probably sure you've heard that as well. Courageous, brave. It was brave to move countries. It was brave to start a podcast. It was brave to stop being employed and become a self-employed person. It was brave to do that. And you kind of go, no, because it was brave when I was thinking about it. And I was the 95% thinking about it, telling myself what would go wrong, why I can't, what my excuse today is as to why I can't do these things. Then it was brave and courageous. But when all of a sudden that need takes over, that you don't have a choice and you are going to hit the 5%, you are going to be the person that just literally says, fuck this, and you just leap. There's no more
I'm out.
courage in them. It's almost like you're just doing it for you. You're just being gravitated towards actually what you were supposed to do in the first place.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think it's the idea that essentially we take the brave decision to leap, but then you don't realise that once you leap, actually things come along and help you and guide you, like all of a sudden. So for example, for me, when I took that decision to leave that job that I hated, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was in such a mess. I'd never known what I wanted to do for a career. All throughout my 20s, I bounced around from job to job trying to find, the fit, something that felt right for me. And so it just so happened that I went to see a career coach, and at the very end of our session, that was what seemed like a really unproductive session for an hour. I was like, we didn't get on, and I was kind of getting quite frustrated. And at the very end, when I kept saying, no, I want to work with people and I want to help people, but not talk about their problems. I want to talk about what they want in the future, what drives them forward. And she went, right at the end, she went, oh, you mean a life coach? And honestly, it was like that hallelujah moment where something went, yep. And it was like the world stopped, all those cheesy moments where something just went, and I went, yes, I mean a life coach. And so the whole session then became incredibly important, because that was the moment that I got into coaching. And she happened to have heard a colleague who had gone to a really good coaching school in Vancouver, where I was living at the time. So I applied for that coaching school. But do you know what I mean? But that opportunities start coming up once you make that brave decision. And you've probably found that as well yourself, where you make that bold decision and make that bold step, and then things start happening. And it's still okay to be scared. I'm still scared as I go along, and it's still okay to not know what you're doing. But you also start having this trust in the process as well,
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right. So when I do a lot of my lunar based podcasts, we're talking a lot, almost guaranteed in each one, no matter which star sign the moon is in, or the star sign that the sun is in, or what really is kind of going on, or what the vibe is. Yeah. A general rule tends to be with most of them is you have got to move out of your comfort zone to let opportunities come in. Or it's you've got to let go of stuff that no longer serves you to let new stuff come and show itself to you. And I think that's probably what it is, that leap when we bounce and we're up in the air like that, making this huge, huge decision with no fear, and we're just kind of letting it all go, and we're letting it all go naturally to whatever it is, to the grace of God or the universe or whatever. Yeah. And after soaring, you've let go of so much, you shed so much that it all just kind of naturally is quite magnetic, which is how we got onto the conversation about manifestation, wasn't it, when we first
way back when we first started talking.
I love manifestation. I love the prospect. I love the concept. I love when I do it. I love what I achieve with it. It's incredible. But what I love most is when people truly don't seem to understand. It's not magic. It's not a spell. It's not even really what you could call like a witchy woo kind of thing. Manifestation is purely pretty much what you do for a living. It is choosing your future goal, no matter how big, no matter how small, working out your minor steps that you can take towards that goal, and making sure that you stay on track, because the more you stay towards the thing that you're called to, the more things are going to come in to help you drive you forward. And that's all manifestation is. And I love that. Yes, it's the law of attraction. But even the law of attraction is not magic. It's almost bordering on pseudoscience. The fact that you are magnetic and you draw things.
And we all have energy.
It's absolutely incredible. And I love how that kind of blends into your accountability coaching. Because all you're trying to do is just get them to manifest exactly what they came to you for in the first place.
And I find even if people don't like the word manifesting and don't want to talk about it, that's absolutely fine. But you'll find that even people who are like, I hate manifesting, I don't believe in it. For the successful people, what they've actually done is manifested. They just don't call it that. They have set themselves a goal, believed in it, and taken steps towards it, which is kind of what manifesting is. You need to get clear on what you want. You believe that it can happen, and then you start doing your bit as well as, and I believe that the universe will provide as well, but you need to do your bit as well. So for example, my business will, clients will come to me but I need to be, you know, for example, with you, we talked about being on the podcast here. So that was me doing my bit. And then the universe, that's the way I see it anyway, the universe will provide the bits like, you know, we don't know who's going to be listening. We don't know who might find what we're talking about useful. We don't know how they'll use it in their lives. Do you know what I mean? You don't know how it's going to proceed from then. You never know. But taking that step, and yeah, sometimes you can take a slow step and that's okay. You know, I say that with my clients. You know, they're like, it doesn't have to be 100% go every week, you know, because life is like this. We're going to have ups and downs.
Completely.
If you have a down week, you know, if you're having a low energy week or lots of this going on, you know, your mum's in the hospital or something and you've really stretched, that's going to be a week where you lower expectations. But the higher weeks are the ones where you can do more. So yeah, I think I don't talk about manifesting much in the work I do, but I think it underpins everything, you know. I think there's the foundation is there.
I think there's a lot to be said between the two words of manifestation and accountability. They're similar. They're not the same, but there's a great similarity between them. And I think my favourite sort of analogy for it is to prove that it's not magic, not accountability nor manifestation.
Yeah.
If you want to get clients or record a podcast, if you don't actually do anything and you just sit and sit in your head, if you turn up at your door and knock and go, I'm here to record a podcast.
Yeah. I heard you wanted to make a podcast. Yeah.
It's not that. Yeah. I mean, the story of how I got the podcast is so random, it's ridiculous. I literally was cleaning and I came across, I had Spotify open and it kind of went, want to listen to a podcast? And I went, sure. What's that? So I kind of went on to it. And I said to my husband when I'd listened to this episode, it was it's sort of like in the self-helpy, self-growth kind of vibe, you know, so it was quite inspirational to listen to it anyway. But I came and I went, I want to make a podcast. And he just kind of looked at me and went, about what? And I said to him, I don't know. And he went, cool. And he's like, well, think about it then and work out what it is you want to do. And I was like, yeah, I will. And he said, do you know what a podcast is? I was like, no, not really. But
not yet, I don't, Oh, I love that so much.
Very random, but if you don't make the steps, so, you know, I started, what did I start with? I started by using Spotify to create the podcast, and I started with a logo. That was it. Just a logo. Yeah. And then about 2-3 weeks later, when I got a little bit more courage, again, we're back to courage, right? You know, like at this point, I still needed courage to keep going.
Yeah.
Then made a trailer so that people could kind of tune in and hear what it would be about. Mm-hmm. And then the first episode I did, I shook like a leaf. Now, bear in mind that I sing as well. So, like, stage stuff doesn't... it makes me nervous, but I'm not like a terrified lamb that's never done anything like this. And I shook like a leaf the whole time. I think my voice actually quavers in the first episode. You can hear it kind of shaking a little bit. Yeah. But that was it. That was the leap. Once I did that one,
and that was you out of your comfort zone. Yeah.
There was no looking back after that. I saw the numbers, I saw the stats. The stats inspired me. I loved seeing the second I got one extra country listening. You know, it's only one person in one country. I'm so awe-inspired by it that it makes me just get up and start doing it again. You know?
Yes, brilliant. That's exactly what you wanted. That's fantastic. And there were two things that you said right at the start, which I absolutely loved. I have to try and remember. So you said when you said something about, I thought about doing a podcast, and I just thought, sure. And that, I think, is the key point, saying yes to things, you know, even if they're small. The people who take that step, again, it's being brave, but saying yes to something, even if it's tiny, can have a huge shift in your whole world, basically. And also the other thing that I think you did is you got hit what I would call with like intuition, or your gut was telling you, or, you know, the universe, whatever you want to call it. But that moment where you said, I'm going to start a podcast, something in you, it was almost like something beyond you, like something bigger than you was saying, I need to do this. And that, again, is another key moment, I think, where you could have said no and you could have walked away, you know, and you could have given, there would have been so many reasons. I don't know anything about podcasting. I don't know what the topic's going to be. I don't have whatever it is, I don't have the setup. They were all reasons not to do it. But I think it sounds like you listened to that intuition, which was saying, do a podcast, like you responded to the message.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, do a
What
podcast.
is how many other things it's affected. So I love that we now have 27 countries listening in. And if I've even touched with one person in those 27 countries, I know those aren't the numbers, but even if it's just one. I mean, I got Ukraine the other day. So if you're listening to the one person that listens in Ukraine, thank you so much for being here. So you look at what's going on with them and you go, I'm really glad that you chose to join us and listen to a very peaceful episode in probably what is a very difficult time in your country right now. Things like that really inspire me. Then meet wonderful people like you and all the other guests that have been on, and I get to listen to what it is that you guys do. And I've met some amazing people. And again, the people that are listening are also meeting you guys too.
Yeah.
And I love this kind of knock-on, roll-on effect of how it's affected. It's got like a ripple effect. I love that.
Yeah. Oh my
It's
God.
one of my favorite.
I use it all the time in my work. I use that example of the ripple effect, especially when I first start working with people. Generally what happens is I start working with people normally for 6 months, but sometimes shorter or longer. And people come in and they're really excited, or generally that's what I want as well. I want people to be excited, nerves are normal as well, but that bit of excitement, otherwise you're not going to do it basically. So they're excited and they get started and they're like, I did all my tasks this week. And then something happens and an obstacle comes up or something, there's some sort of derailing, and it goes back to, I can't do this, I don't think I'm right. I didn't do my tasks this week. I'm such a failure, blah, 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 the usual voice in our head. And my job is to get people back on that horse, and I think I've lost my train of thought where I was going there, but generally, the ripple effect. It's like, so then I use the ripple effect example where I say, the tasks that you're doing each week, you don't know the impact that they're going to have. All you need to do is do the 3 tasks. That's not that much, on a general week. 3 tasks isn't a lot. If you need to just do that minimum of 3, do them. But they will have a ripple, and that impact, you have no idea where you're starting. So I think in our conversations before, I'd said to you about, I put an advert once on a website that was like a woman who was much further ahead than me, and she offered advertising space on her website. So I did a really tiny ad, and I did it myself on Canva, and it didn't, I'm sure it wasn't design-wise, it wasn't that great, and it was really small, and I paid my $90 or whatever it was. And I got one client from that ad. But that client has been with me for 6 years now and has done most of my programs.
Yeah, you did tell me.
Lots of my clients end up becoming friends as well. It's kind of that weird client-friend mix in the middle. So I'd call her a friend as well now. And so it was one of the most helpful things I ever did for my business, But I couldn't have known that at the start. And of course, again, it's about taking that risk, isn't it? Because there are sometimes you put an advert in and it doesn't pay off. I get that. But you never know, like you were saying with your podcast, you don't know what countries it's going to go to next, How exciting is that?
And that's my goals for this year. I always set a little goal. It's completely made up in my head. It doesn't mean that it won't do it or it might surpass it or whatever. But I always just set an aim of how many countries I want to achieve. I can't control that in the slightest. No. I can't make anybody listen.
No,
but I hope that the numbers reach this number by the end of the year. Likewise, I look and I go, it's this many times it's been listened to all over the world. I'm now aiming for this ridiculously high number. And then I just do whatever I can, like having wonderful people like yourself on and hoping that the content that I share works for people and that people enjoy it. And you take those little steps. What am I going to write next? What am I going to do next? Who's coming on next? Who's going to talk about this? And you hope that at the end of the year, this thing that you cannot control, because I can't force people into it.
No, you can't.
Achieved what I would like for it to achieve. If it doesn't, I'm not going to sit there and beat myself with a stick either. If it doesn't, it's only my passion project. I love it to bits, but it's not my job, So if it doesn't, it will do next year.
With this podcast, exactly. Yeah, you just take the learning. If there's any learning to be had, exactly. Yeah, I love the setting those goals, and then also it's such an important thing you said there about what's in your control or not. That's another big thing that comes up with my clients. And I know when I first started coaching, I was trying to get training hours anyway, so I was kind of saying to all friends and family, can I coach you for an hour? And one of the first things they do in coaching is they basically say, you can't control anyone else, we can only control ourselves. So somebody had come to me and we'd done like this early coaching session, and she basically had said, this person's really annoying me, I'm finding a really difficulty with this person in my life, so I want to change them. And I was like, no, that we cannot do that at all. We're not, and we can't even have a session on it, because we can't do anything about that person and their behaviour and what they're doing. We can fully work on, how you react to it, how much you're exposed to it, if to a certain extent, how you conduct yourself. But that's the limit of it, isn't it? So you're right, like the things in your control, but it's quite empowering in a way, because you can let, the stuff that is in your control, you can let it go. What is in my control? My thoughts, my feelings, how I react, whether I take time before I respond, how much effort I put in, all of that stuff is more in our control. Yeah, but like you say, and then you let, if you believe in that kind of thing, you let the universe, take care of the rest of it. Or, I know we've talked about that before, so I think we both share similar beliefs around, the universe. I see it as holding hands with the universe. Sounds really cheesy, but that's the way I see it. So the universe is like, so the universe is like, I'll do my bit if you do your bit, so you show up for the podcast and I'll bring listeners along. And same for you, you put the podcast out there and I'll bring people along who need to hear it. You know what I mean? So it's, exactly. I see it like that.
Yeah, and that's when like people like you approach and we talk about you coming on. I get the feeling that when I meet someone very aligned with me, even if it's just personality as opposed to perhaps content, just maybe we're just very similar and we chat and we, like when I do these discovery calls with you guys, I mean, I find that even though we record for about an hour and a half, the discovery call, just to get to know most of my guests, because we're so aligned with each other, can go on for an hour anyway, because we're just napping each other's ears off,
Yeah. We just had a good chat, didn't we?
And I just feel that it means that your information belongs to someone out there. Not only are you interesting, and I've really enjoyed talking to you myself, but what you've got to say probably means the absolute world to someone out there right now. Do you know what I mean? And I love that, because I almost get that feeling when I meet these wonderful guests of mine, and I kind of go, yeah, I can feel that there's a connection here. We were meant to meet. I mean, you literally live around the corner from me, don't you? You're like in the same town.
We live in the same town.
Never been to a meeting, never seen each other before.
Look out for you now, though, of course. Yeah.
Around the corner from each other.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Which is ironic. I met online and had this kind of kismet about it. So I feel that, everything is connected, and that you are interesting to me for sure right now when this episode is listened to. Yeah. I feel that there is one, if not more, people that are kind of going to go, oh my God, like I needed that information today. I need her, and I do. I feel that everything is so aligned.
Yeah. I got goosebumps when you were saying that, and that's something when I first start working with people, especially anyone who's slightly creative. So in those fields of like an artist or a writer or someone who's starting a business who is maybe writing blog posts, for example. And I say that, because that's my experience is doing blog posts, but it's almost like you don't know how you're going to be received and who needs to see your artwork, for example. You just, you don't need to worry about it almost. So you create the artwork and then somebody out there will need it. And that information it might take a while to come through. And that's why at the start of the process, the belief and the trust is so important, because when you're writing that newsletter or that blog post and you're getting crickets and no one's responding, you need to keep going and going. And all of a sudden, same as you, I get people from across the world saying, I love this newsletter today. I don't even know how you got in my inbox. Do you know what I mean? I don't remember subscribing, but I really needed this today. And it's amazing, and you're like, oh, where are you in the world? Oh, okay, Australia, India, Canada, Serbia. Like I love it. But it's having that, it is really difficult, but having that belief at the start to go, I'm going to keep doing this, even if I don't get much response at the beginning. Like you say, because you don't know who is out there needing it. I believe there is a match out there for...
Definitely. Do you know my favourite example of that is Joe Wicks, the fitness guy.
Okay, yeah.
When he, talk about diligence, like when he started his videos on YouTube, doing nothing dissimilar to what he's actually doing today, apart from now he has better equipment and better clothing for it. And he was doing, the workouts that we all know and love, and they're all in the books and they're all on YouTube. But the beginning ones, he was getting maybe 1 or 2 people watching, and that was it. And he would get up every day and he would carry on and he would do it. And he said, like, now that he's not only mega famous, but, like, so inspirational as a person, he said, you got to keep going, because at some point you're just going to reach the right person that needed that. And that person's probably going to then tell someone they know that needs that too. And now look at him. I mean, honestly, he can't put a video up without it hitting the millions.
Yeah.
And
it's that the scales suddenly tip. I really believe that they suddenly go from no one's interested in my work.
All you need is, and then it goes on and goes on and goes on. It's incredible. And I think that if you are, I suppose, what would you call like a call of service almost thing? If you're doing something that you think benefits people, as opposed to necessarily just benefiting yourself. Right. When you talk about business, there is a benefit to yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it entirely.
Of course. Yeah, I don't do it for free. No, I need to eat as well. Yeah.
People kind of go, well, you should be doing it for free. You're like, no, because it actually costs me a lot energetically, and the space, and the bed, and the candles, and the this, and the training. You have to charge. But if you're doing something that doesn't just benefit you, it actually benefits others, as you were saying with artists and you do, and energy heat, whatever it is you can think of. The ripple effect is enormous, and it will bring everything back round to you. And I feel that naturally that call of service will instantly start just slowly attracting that in anyway. It can be a very slow process, because maybe it's got far to go. Maybe it's not local, maybe it's really across the other side of the world, and it's got to reach them first. You don't know. I think it's part of the journey that fascinates me and that I love the most, is that kind of like, look back at the bigger picture and you kind of go, holy shit, that's why. And I love that. Just looking back and you go, that's why that had to happen.
Yeah. And it's such an important part of it, isn't it? It's so often I'll have with my clients as well as looking forward, which I really believe, is get clear on what you want, get clear on your vision, really enjoy it, make a video in your head, what do you want it to look like? I really believe in that. But also that moment of going, look back and see how far you've come. Look back to this time last year. How have you grown? How have things changed? Or whatever, time period is right for you. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it is, or 6 months ago. What has changed? Because in a year, so it's funny, right now, I can't remember if I said, but I'm training for the London Marathon, which is coming up at the end of April.
Well done.
So a couple of months away. Yeah, so I'm not really a runner. Well, I guess I have to say I'm a runner now because I'm doing running training. But so last year I started training and I was struggling to run 4 kilometers because I work mainly in kilometers. I couldn't run a 4K. I kept trying and trying and trying. I would do 2K. I would do a little loop. I would be shattered. I would have to walk. Right now I'm running at about 20K, and it's like, and my 10Ks I'm not even thinking about anymore. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean to say that to brag, but what I want to show is the shift in a year.
Yeah.
And that's not like I'm a single parent. I've got some with additional needs. I'm not committing 5 days a week. I can't run during the holidays, during vacation time. So that's 3 times a week max. But the shift in a year is massive. Do you know what I mean? And you've probably experienced that on your journey. A year can change a lot.
Intensely, and it can change everything. Mindset will be a huge one for you as well, from a running. The runners.
Yes, it is.
Huge on their mindset because of the blockage that you can get that stops you from being able to run. But mindset shifts do that as well, where you look and you kind of go, so I'm dealing with a similar problem, pattern, issue, whatever, person, as I was a year ago, but this version of me has dealt with it better than last year's version, last time's version of it. And it's a huge one. Change your mindset.
I love that.
Always the classic of practice makes perfect, right? Keep at something, keep going at it, and you will get better at it, no matter what you are doing, whether it is running or dancing, singing, painting, or just, saying no. The more you do, the better you get.
Yes, exactly. It is a muscle, and it's okay to fall off the wagon. I'm always churning out these analogies and these expressions, but yeah, it's okay to fall off the horse, but just try and get back on again. And you might need a break, and that's okay. But it's the getting back on again that's the most important thing. We're all going to fall off, we're all going to fall down, but it's, do you decide to get back up again? And sometimes, and I'm not saying that it's not wrong to quit, because I believe sometimes there is a point to quit. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
but if it's something you love and you really want to do, and you hit a stumbling block, okay, you learn from it and then you get back up again. So, because especially when you start out, we've all been there. You might run an event and only one person shows up. Okay, that's learning. When you start your podcast, or when Joe Wick started, only a few people were watching his videos. Yeah, but you.
You are absolutely right. We've had them all. We've done catering events where nobody wants anything.
Yep.
I've sung at events where nobody comes to see, and you're like, oh my God,
Yep.
it's D.
Yeah. What do we do?
We've done it in every capacity. There is always a low point.
Yeah.
I think you're right that if you quit out of fear, panic, this is
Yeah.
the wrong kind of quitting. That is truly you giving up on something you probably shouldn't be giving up on. If you quit out of, I'm done, it's enough, I don't want this is bad for me, this is bad for something else, all of these reasons, quitting's not a problem. But if you quit out of fear or panic or any of those kind of negative brain, ego kind of things, like niggling away at you, telling you that you need to quit, then the chances are you probably need to stand straight back up and get yourself back on it again, especially if you love what you do.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That's not the time to start pulling back. I agree. Get back on the horse. Especially if you love the horse, you get back on,
Exactly. You might need a break from the horse, but that's okay. Still nurture the horse. Yeah, exactly that. Like you say, if you
horse take you for a little walk on. Oh, you're not fine. Come back.
Yeah. Bring carrots, yeah. But yeah, absolutely. I would say to people, if you absolutely hate something and you hate it for month after month after month, yes, that probably is, like you say, it's the right time to quit. But yeah, if it is those reasons that you said, exactly that, like I'm afraid, or it feels scary, or also what will other people think, or what will other people say, that is, I think, can often be a factor for quitting, when ideally it wouldn't be, because really it's our life. Other people are always going to have opinions, and they're quite vocal about those opinions, but why should that stop us from following our heart's calling?
And I think the thing that I notice the most with those opinions that I could possibly give advice on to anybody else, and hopefully some people would be able to agree as well, is if you do the thing that you have decided you're no longer afraid of, whatever it is, and you do it with total confidence and faith, as in, we're back to, it's not scary once you've taken the leap. And in that leap, you don't give a shit what anyone thinks. You're just doing your thing. In that moment, if you have confidence and faith in what you are doing, they may have an opinion, but they will get over it, or you will prove them wrong. And eventually, they will change their tune. Or more importantly, my favourite one is they actually don't say anything. I think the confidence almost outshines whatever it is they've got to say. And they just stum, where you think they're going to be really vocal and tell you how bad you are, how wrong you are, how naughty you are for doing it. They actually just stay very quiet. Or, even better, sometimes they actually agree. And they're kind of like, I think it's a good idea. And you kind of go, what?
Wow, okay. We're on the same
I'm pretty
page.
sure it is you being so aligned with what you're supposed to do that you're almost rippling out, resonating this wonderful vibe off of you that people kind of can't really be moany about, if that makes sense. And if they still are, because there will always be naysayers, you don't have to listen to them and fight it.
Yeah, and I think naturally those sort of people take a back seat anyway, or they tend to sort of fade out. Not if it's family members or a partner, I get that, but just naturally, I think when you start following your heart or your passion, whatever it is, you naturally look out for more people in a similar space. You naturally find people who are doing similar, and so I feel like just naturally the naysayers, you give them less weight. You're not as interested in what they have to say. but you probably naturally end up spending just that bit less time with them, you know, because you don't have time for it anymore, because you're busy, you know, following your passion, or you're busy going to, let's take the example of the artist again, you know, for example, you're going to art shows and people like that, or you're in a business setting, you might be going to conferences where other people are doing similar. So yeah, I think again,
Like,
it comes back to the universe. The universe
or just
provides.
people. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a really important place for people to be. You should surround yourself more with people that think like you, that have the same values as you, or feel the same way that you do, because they will raise you up for sure. Like, they will always have your back, they will push you, they will guide you, they will rise you above everything. If you constantly around those people that keep saying no,
Yeah.
it's problematic. It is
Yeah.
problematic, and
We do take that energy in, I think. Yeah, 100%. And funnily enough, I'm giving a talk tomorrow actually at Patch in Chelmsford, where I'm talking about this exact same thing, and part of it is around like growing your business, and it's about like a big part of is who you surround yourself with, you know, and like trying wherever possible. If you can find people that are a few steps ahead of you, that's amazing, you know, because then you see how it's done and you have that inspiring person to work towards, you know, not to necessarily take from them, but just like you say, it removing yourself again from those naysayers. And the people who aren't doing it, I said this quite a while ago, where something was like, the people who have the loudest opinions are normally the ones who haven't done it, you know, or the ones who haven't gone through it. And I find, you know, like those are the ones, and I found this a lot in my journey, where people, especially when I moved abroad, for example, if people felt afraid of that in themselves, they sort of, that came across to me, you know, like they thought, "Oh, I could never live abroad, or I could never move abroad, I could never quit my job, for example. It terrifies me, so I need to, you know, like, you're scaring me, basically. You know, what does that mean for me? What does that change mean for me? I don't like this change." And that's understandable, but we sometimes need to, I don't know if disassociate is the right word, or remove ourselves, or just put that protective barrier around ourselves to say, you know, it's okay that I'm doing this, you know, it's okay that they feel scared, but it's also okay for me to do it as well.
That's up to them. You can't control that.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can't control that. You can't control all of this. You
Yeah.
can control this, and you can control this.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to what you can control again, doesn't it? Yeah.
And that's what I love. It just goes round in circles. Honestly, we could talk for hours, and we will just keep coming back and basically putting the points right. I love it.
You said that last time, yeah.
Oh, Claire, do you know what? It's been absolutely amazing to have you on. Thank you so
I
much.
loved it. No, thank you for having me.
Probably fill another hour easy, if not.
Yes, yeah. At some point it'll get dark and we'll have to cut off, yeah.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. And for anybody that's interested in looking Claire up, or working with Claire, or just seeing what she's got to say, because she's got some amazing content. And have you still got the blog? You have, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Well, website and Facebook and Insta and all the usual bits in the bio for you, so that if you want to connect with Claire in any way or work with her, you can find her there. But Claire, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Honestly, great minds think alike in Wickham.
Yeah, it's all happening in Wickham. Yeah, thank you so much. I've loved being on. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun. Yeah. Always good to have a good chat with like-minded people.
Absolutely. Like attracts like.
Yeah.
And to everybody out there, you take care until next time. Bye.
Bye.